Well, thank you very much. It's been an interesting day from the standpoint of news. As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, a large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people. Very excitingly for me and for the country, we've just launched the Trump Gold Card. It was about 30 minutes from now. The site goes up, and all funds go to the United States government. It could be a tremendous amount of money. It'll also be able to have people like this keep, as an example, just one example. There are a lot of examples, people just buying them. It's somewhat like a green card, but with big advantages over a green card. And companies are going to be able to go to the Wharton School of Finance, the Stern Business School, Harvard, MIT, wherever you may get your students, any school, and you're able to buy a card and keep that person in the United States, actually. So there's certainty, because I've heard from Tim Cook of Apple, and I've heard from a lot of people, some of the people at this table, that essentially in the United States, you can't keep the student. You can't hire people from the best colleges because you don't know whether or not you can keep the person. They come and have the people get out. They throw the person out of the country. You graduate number one from your college, and there's no way of guaranteeing, I guess you could say, there's no way of guaranteeing that they're able to stay in the country. Howard, maybe you'll give a little description of the Trump Gold Card, please.
Sure. So for an individual, it's $1 million. And for a corporation, it's $2 million. And as the president said, for a corporation, they spend $2 million. They can then have an employee, full vetting, the best vetting the government has ever done, $15,000 vetting to make sure these people absolutely qualify to be in America, absolutely qualify. And then the company can keep them here, and they have a path to citizenship, right? Obviously, they have to be perfect people in America, and having passed the vetting, after 5 years, they'll be available to become citizens, and then the corporation can put someone else on the card. So for a company, they can keep putting people on the card, one person per card, and for an individual, it's $1 million, and it's a gift to the United States of America to help America be great again under Donald Trump.
And it's really two gifts. It's a gift of getting somebody great coming into our country, because we think these will be some tremendous people that wouldn't be allowed to stay. You know, they graduate from college, they have to go back to India, they have to go back to China, they have to go back to France, they have to go back to wherever they came from. Very hard to stay. It's a shame. It's ridiculous things. We're taking care of that. The companies are going to be very happy. I know Apple's going to be happy, but a lot of the companies, nobody talked to me more about it than Tim Cook. He said it's a real problem, and it's not going to be a problem anymore. As you know, they used to send people up to Canada and other places, other countries. So we solved that. And the other thing is, it'll take in, we think, probably billions of dollars that will go to the Treasury of the United States, that will go to an account where we can do things positive for the country. So it'll be a great thing. We'll take in, I think, billions of dollars, many billions of dollars even. So that's very exciting. The Trump accounts are doing really well. We have a man on my right, Michael Dell, who's an extraordinary person. His wife is even more extraordinary. I think I can say that. They have such a good relationship. She's an extraordinary person.
Absolutely.
Right? Got a great wife. But they're two great people. And as you know, last week, Michael contributed $6,250,000,000. And this is just something that's so special. So many people are in love with that. He understood it right from the beginning. It was his idea, and he understood it right from the beginning. Could you give maybe just a little description of why you loved it for such a long period of time? And we were able to get it through the great, big, beautiful bill, basically, that's how, what gave us the authorization to do it. Michael, please.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. So, when we first heard about this idea, the idea was that the government would give $1,000 to a newborn baby in an account that they would own, and it would go in essentially the S&P 500 and compound. And when the child becomes 18, they could use that money to go to college, to buy a home, to start a business, to continue saving. And I thought that was a great idea. I thought that'd be great if companies matched the government's contribution, which we're doing. A lot of the companies around the table have committed to doing that. And also thought about this is, wow, this is going to be like a platform for families and communities and philanthropists to contribute to those accounts. And so we originally started with the idea of, well, what if we gave some money to all the kids in our home state of Texas, right? We thought that would be a nice thing to do.
That's still a lot.
Yeah, it is. 1 out of 10 new kids in America are born in Texas.
It's pretty good.
Happen to be a fan of the state of Texas. But anyway, we thought about it some more. And we thought, this is going to be something really special. We have a foundation. It focuses on children. It's been around for 26 years. And we said, well, why don't we go bigger? And so we talked about it. And, now that the Investment America Act is a law, which that in itself is a incredible thing that occurred. It does create a platform, and we were super happy to announce that we would give, $250. We arrived at $250 because next year will be the 250th birthday of America and 25 million children. We thought that was a nice thing to do because it would include most of the children that are 10 and under, that are not part of the government program, that live in zip codes where the median income is less than $150,000. And that was also an important part of our contribution. And I do believe there will be a number of other large gifts announced. I've already spoken with a few that will be announcing gifts at the state level,
right?
And more to come.
It's amazing, and it's amazing the vision you have, but that's why you're so successful, frankly. And to think that Michael started off with not a lot of money, I would say, right? Not too much, like very little. And he can give a gift of $6,250,000,000, and I know he said he's going to do a lot more. It's pretty amazing. It's really a beautiful thing to watch. So great for our country. So we have the Trump accounts are doing really well, and it's become, I have to tell you, just everyone's talking about it, beyond what I would have even thought. And it's going to make some young people relatively very wealthy. And in some cases, they could really be off to a great start. So some people have had that advantage and some people haven't, but it's a wonderful thing. Thank you to you and your beautiful wife. Thank you, sir. So it's a pleasure to welcome so many brilliant minds and distinguished business leaders back to the White House. I love these brilliant minds, including Michael Dell of Dell Technologies, who makes a great product. And I want to thank him for what he's done, what we just discussed, the accounts. We also are grateful to be joined by Enrique Lores of HP. So thank you very much, Enrique. Great job you're doing. Antonio Neri of HP Enterprise. Thank you very much. What's the difference between HP and HP Enterprise?
We focus on the cloud security, networking, and large systems.
The cloud's good. People have done very well with the cloud. That's great. Arvind Krishna of IBM, who's actually become, I would say, a legend. The job he's done. He's taken the stock from a rather low price to a very nice price. I won't say high because I'm sure you're going to say it's going to go up a lot more, right? But, so I can't say a high price. But he took IBM into a new stratosphere that nobody, I think, saw. If you go back before, when he took over the company, nobody would have even imagined that you'd be able to do what you've done. So congratulations, become a good friend. Cristiano Amon of Qualcomm, and thank you very much. Congratulations on the success.
Thank you.
I know a lot about your company. You've done amazing. And Executive Director of the Technology CEO Council, Bruce Melman. So thank you very much. I think that these people know each other. We're going to be talking a little bit about technology today, and we'll take a few of your questions about technology. I'm sure you probably won't have too many of those questions. You'll be asking about some other things, right, Bruce? Our administration is committed to total dominance in technology. Right now, we're leading artificial intelligence by a lot. And I think, you look at what's going up, and we're writing rules, regulations. We want to keep it at the federal government level, so it's simple for the companies, very important, frankly. And I think we're pretty well committed. I spoke to some of the senators today, and I think we're committed to do that. We want to make it as simple as possible, as easy, because you're competing with some very big sources, and we want to stay number one by a lot. We're leading the world in building new data centers and new semiconductor and chip manufacturing facilities and new capacity for AI. And we're unleashing all of the forms, literally all forms of energy and natural gas and oil to clean, beautiful coal and safe, reliable nuclear power. And I'm giving them approval to, when they build these massive plants that cost $50 billion. It used to be that for $50 million, you could build a nice little shopping center. But for $500 million, you could build one of the biggest, most beautiful centers. And now they're talking about $50 billion. So explain that one. These buildings there's never been anything. There's never been anything like that. So you're all involved in that. It's pretty amazing. 1 year ago, our country was considered dead by many leaders throughout the world. And now we have what's called the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country in the world right now. 10 months took us. I thought it was going to take longer, Michael. I didn't think we were going to have this success this soon. We have over $18 trillion being invested, much of it by, like you're in for a lot. What's the number that you're looking at?
150.
150 billion. That's good. I don't know, Michael, am I allowed to ask you? You already gave 6,250,000,000. Do you have you stated a number that you're at for investment, future investment?
Well, if I think about all the, investment that we make with the American companies that are adding capacity, particularly around semiconductors, it's several $100 billion.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It makes the 6 billion sound very, very small. That's very good. Antonio, what about you guys? What about you and Enrique? How's that going?
Well,
have you announced a number or anything?
No, I'm actually happy to share with you. Over the next few years, we're going to invest an additional 3.5 billion building secure manufacturing. We build the largest supercomputer for the United States government that supports both the DoD and DOE. So in the next 18 months, we're going to build the largest 5 supercomputers that will keep the United States ahead of the game, both in life science and AI, but also to keep ahead owning the entire stack at the national security level.
Great. Are you doing that separately? Are you doing that together or
No,
separate?
we are totally separate company.
Totally separate, right?
From our side, we invest in the US around $18 billion per year. So
Yeah.
you look at the next five,
That's right.
it will be close to $100 billion. And we are going to be investing in AI at the edge, not only on data centers, but how to make AI available to customers in PCs, in headsets, in devices that they would be
Right,
using
right.
every day. Which is
So it's
the
over
next
$100 billion.
Yes,
And you're doing well. HP is doing really well.
yes.
That's great.
We're competing hard with Michael, but we're doing well.
Are you direct competitors?
Yes.
You
That's it. That's why they're on different sides of the table, sir.
The old days would say, why don't you make a deal? I guess now it's not so easy to make.
We can
deals.
have an arm wrestling match now.
Yeah, right. And Cristiano, you've been amazing, right? Your company with the investments. How are you doing with
We're doing
investments?
great. I've think, Mr. President, you have a great decision. I think when you drove our company to continue to be innovating, and I think we're doing very good. We've been, in addition to doing phones, I think we're now, our chips are going to every car company in the world, all the car companies. We're entering into the robotics. There's a lot of growth in robotics and the data center. New smart glasses going to be the future of mobile devices. Industrial, I think a lot of the drive towards manufacturing the country is driving a lot of technology for smart manufacturing. We're making chips for that. So I think we're very excited. And I think, like Michael, I think the number of industries our chips are being enabling is driving hundreds of billions of dollars investments. And most important for us, semiconductor manufacturing is very important. So we are going to be customer of the fabs that are being built in the United States by TSMC and Samsung. So we're just going to keep going forward.
Yeah, those investments are very important, and we are all customers of those fabs.
Those two are my customers too. So
Memory stuff, memory?
we don't do memory. We do a lot of the
Who's the
processing.
king of memory?
It's Micron and
Micron's-
SK Hynix. and
Micron's
Samsung.
another one doing very well. That's great. Yeah, I heard you're doing fantastically. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The stock market has set a 51, think of this, 51 all-time record highs during the last 10 months. 51. You guys are big beneficiaries. You're setting the records, right? It's amazing. 51 times we've hit a new high. And in the history of our country, if you think about it, 51 times during the last 10 months. And Bruce, let me ask you, pull these people all together. How's it looking for technology?
A lot of global competition, but you'd rather be playing our hand than any other hand in the world.
We have a good hand right now, don't we? Joe Biden secured just really much less than $1 trillion of new investments in 4 years. And in 10 months, we secured more than $18 trillion. So 18 times the amount in 10 months what they did in 4 years. And they would have gone negative. They were heading toward negative. In other words, not $1 trillion, but it could have been 3 or 4 or 5 trillion less because people were leaving. So it was a big turnaround in 10 months. The $18 trillion, it's a record. There's never been a country that's gotten anywhere near that. In the Middle East, when I left the Middle East, we brought back $3 trillion and lots of Boeing airplanes, like 300. And Boeing gave me the award for the greatest salesman in the history of Boeing, which was a nice little award. I have a little plaque. The greatest, I think I've sold 1,000 Boeing planes. Can you believe it? Now all they have to do is make them. Okay, they got to make them, but they will. But we have made historic trade deals with the United Kingdom, China, Indonesia, Vietnam, Japan, the EU, Malaysia, Cambodia, El Salvador, Argentina, Ecuador, Guatemala, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Thailand, and South Korea, and many others. And a lot of it's based on the November 5th election result, which was a massive victory. We won all 7 swing states, the popular vote. We won the Electoral College by a landslide. We won the counties. The counties, they do it. I don't know, to me, it's the most accurate of all in many ways. We're at 2,700 counties against 525. That's pretty good, right, Cristiano?
Pretty good.
2,700 against 525, 525. That's why when you see the maps are all red, except for two little blue lines on the right and the left side of the map. They're probably changing too. Americans are great builders, and in the Trump administration, America is once again a country where innovators get a green light. You have the greatest innovators in the world at this table, and representing a lot of their friends who are competitors and friends. But we're really on a big move to get rid of red tape so they can run their businesses and not have to wait 10 years for an approval. In the old days, getting some of these approvals for plants that are already being built would have taken 10, 15, even 20 years prior to rejection. You get rejected. You'd work 20 years and then you'd lose 5 to 4. And we're getting plants approved in a matter of weeks. The biggest plants ever built in a matter of weeks. For every new regulation, we're slashing more than 10 old regulations. So we're not allowing regulations unless they slash 10 old regulations. We did that in the first term, and we cut more regulation than any administration ever. In our first term, we have the all-time record. I think we're exceeding it here. In fact, now it's 1 in 24 is the number we're at. It's 1 in 10 you have to do, otherwise we're not letting you do it. But we're actually up to 1 in 24, so we get rid of 24 regulations for every one. That's not a bad deal, right? And it's been very exciting, actually. But
welcome, one and all, and to this Wednesday night edition of the Indoctrination. I'm David Snedeker, and I am very excited. You know, I was listening to this roundtable while I was driving today. I did a lot of driving today, but all is well. And but one of the things that really came to mind is that we have a president that is innovating. And it's almost like all the presidents before haven't stepped outside the box, haven't thought outside the box. And what we have is you can look at, you can just find pretty much anybody bad-mouthing President Trump for the lack of major arrests, even though the trajectory is definitely in that direction, and telling us that it's happening soon. But you can look at the Charlie Kirk thing. You can look at the some of the things going on with Israel, some of the things going on with Ukraine. And you can find reasons why to be disappointed with President Trump. That's if you don't have Q in your world. And Q takes it to another level. Q allows us to understand how big this operation is and why it's taking so long. Even though Q was talking about the very things that we're frustrated about today, Q was talking about those things in 2017, the mass arrests, the Russia collusion, many, many years ago, Q kind of opened up the books to all of the negativity that was directed towards President Donald John Trump in order to really to take him out, to keep him out of office. And you're even seeing, for example, Eric Darty posted this earlier about the U.S. House advancing a bill to overturn a President Trump executive order after 13 Republicans voted with Democrats. 222 to 200 vote. The House moved forward with ending Trump's crackdown on federal worker unions. Utterly ridiculous. The 13 Republicans are Drew from New Jersey, Malatakis from New York, Lalata from New York, Fitzpatrick, Pennsylvania, Breshnahan, Pennsylvania, Don Bacon, Nebraska, Mike Lawler, New York, Tom Keene, New Jersey, Ryan McKenzie, Pennsylvania, Nunn, Iowa, Smith, New Jersey, Stauber, Minnesota, Mike Turner, Ohio. Full passage vote could happen Thursday. Now, I don't think this is something that President Trump will sign into law because the very idea of federal unions is ridiculous. So even with all the wonderful things that President Trump is doing, we see that there are still people that are getting in his way. Why would we have federal unions unless those federal unions were supporting these people that voted against President Trump? So there's a lot of things that you can say, you can do, you can kind of look at it. But I just want to say this, that there are things being revealed right now that wouldn't be being revealed if the deep state was still in control. and I'll give you one example. What has President Trump been talking about with Ilhan Omar? Listen to Tom Holman today.
The Border Czar, Tom Homan, joins us tonight to talk about Minnesota as well as a number of other issues. And sir, it's good to have you back on the show. Trump mentioning the Daily Mail reporting from 2020 that Ilhan Omar married her brother to get into the country. This was last week. Take a listen.
Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud.
Calls that a fraud. It's a story that has never been successfully refuted, even though it's now a 5-year-old story. That's clearly a deportable offense. Is there an investigation into that?
You know, I just got advised by a fraud investigator the other day on that. I asked the question, who reviewed the file and says that there was immigration fraud involved. The statute of limitations became an issue in the last 4 years when this was first brought up. Who was president? Who ran DOJ? So pulling the records now, pulling the files, and we're looking at, but this fraud investigator, who I know personally, one of the best fraud investigators in HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, said there's no doubt he reviewed the file. So I'm running that down this week, matter of fact, and we'll see.
It's tremendous that, I mean, and according to the Secretary, Kristi Noem of DHS, she said nearly 50% of the visas are fraudulent in this community. I mean, that would mean that half the Somali refugees are here in some way illegally. What's going to happen? Is something's actually going to happen? Are there going to be people stripped of their visas, deported? Are we going to see that?
Absolutely. I mean, those days are over. Thank God President Trump's in the White House. We're going to look at all of them. I mean, we're going to look at those here illegally, of course. We're going to look at those here under a visa or some sort of, immigration process that are criminals. We're going to look at the national security threats. But those who came through a process that weren't properly vetted, who didn't provide documentation, who slipped through the Biden's weak processes on, giving visas and temporary, whether student visas or visitors visas or whatever. We're going the whole gamut. President Trump has instructed us go down.
So, President Trump says something about Ilhan Omar, and the next thing you know is she's being investigated, not from a standpoint of lawfare like the Democrats did, but actual evidence of fraud, actual evidence of immigration fraud, and also this fraud that is being exposed in Minnesota. And so, if the deep state was in control, would we see what is happening? For example, let me share this with you. Naomi Wolf. Let me see here.
There's an 8-page report on pregnancy and lactation that shows that this injection kills babies in utero. They had 2 babies die that were in their moms, in utero. And Pfizer concluded that the deaths were due to maternal exposure to the vaccine. And this report was sent on April 21st, 2021 to the White House. April 23rd, 2021, Dr. Walensky, who had the report and knew this injection was killing babies and poisoning nursing babies, told the pregnant women of America that it was safe and effective and that there was no bad time to have your injection before, during, or after your pregnancy. And she knew that this would kill babies.
So this is calling out Rachel Walensky, that she knew about these Pfizer documents about killing babies. And she knew, and she told pregnant women to get the jab. Would this be coming out if the deep state were really winning this argument? Would any of this be coming out? Let's see. Would this be coming out? Look at this. This is President Trump signing an executive order.
The first relates to gain-of-function research. Gain-of-function research is a type of biomedical research where pathogens are adulterated, viruses are adulterated to make them more potent or to change the way that they function. Many people believe that gain-of-function research was one of the key causes of the COVID pandemic that struck us in the last decade. What this executive order does, first of all, it provides powerful new tools to enforce the ban on federal funding for gain-of-function research abroad. It also strengthens other oversight mechanisms related to that issue and creates an overarching strategy to ensure that biomedical research in general is being conducted safely and in a way that ultimately protects human health more.
It's a big deal. It could have been that we wouldn't have had the problem we had.
A lot of people say that, sir.
If we had this done earlier. Thank you.
Sudden and unexpected, Dr. Francis Boyle, the Harvard professor who literally wrote the America's 1989 Biological Weapons Act, was set to be the star against Bill Gates and Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla in the ongoing Dutch Crimes Against Humanity trial, has been found dead days before he was scheduled to give a sealed deposition proving the mRNA shots were intentionally designed as depopulation weapons. Yeah. So would we be seeing this? Would we be exposed to all this? This is absolutely the sheer seeing all these deaths. By the way, could you hear me talk when that was up? I just need to make sure that I wasn't off mic. Did you hear me read this sudden and unexpected post? Yeah, I read this right here. I just want to make sure that you heard that. Yes, thank you, Ellen. Thank you, the real Lisa. Thank you. So, I mean, look what's coming out, my friends. This is huge. Like, this is like next level. That, you know, this is about the transparency and the accountability for what's really happening here. And so this study came out, and it's huge. Like, it doesn't get any bigger than this. That this is absolutely happening. I also wanted to reiterate what I shared with you yesterday, that SCOTUS erased vaccine ruling, orders new review on parental rights. Okay. They erased a lower court ruling that had upheld New York's strict school vaccine rules that don't allow, let me do a read only here, for religious exemption, and ordered judges to reconsider the case with a new focus on parental rights. Amish parents had challenged the law, arguing New York once recognized religious exemptions but eliminated them in 2019, the Washington Times reported. And if you remember, ours was in California. The religious exemption had been eliminated years prior to that. The medical exemption was taken away in 2019, and so this is huge. The Supreme Court told the appeals court to reevaluate the case in light of last term's ruling involving the lack of parental opt-outs from the LGBTQ diversity curriculum in Montgomery County, Maryland. By the way, Montgomery County, that's where a lot of your senators and congressmen live, across the border in Montgomery County, Maryland. They live in Bethesda, places right on the border of D.C. Because no one wants to live in D.C. I mean, if you're a congressman or a senator, you'd have to be an idiot to live in that city. Now, yeah, you can live in that city, but not before. So so this is huge, and so we're seeing this under President Trump's watch, and also on President. So there's going to be, I believe, some comeuppance going on, and I wanted to also show you what Bobby Kennedy said. Check this out.
That no human being should suffer from exposure to mercury. You came together to protect future generations from this potent neurotoxin, and I'm looking forward to continued progress. Article 4 of the convention calls on parties to cut mercury use by phasing out listed mercury-added products. But in 2010, as the treaty took shape, negotiators made a major exception. Thimerosal-containing vaccines were carved out of the regulation. The same treaty that began to phase out mercury in lamps and cosmetics chose to leave it in products injected into babies, pregnant women, and the most vulnerable among us. We have to ask why. Why do we hold a double standard for mercury? Why do we call it dangerous in batteries, in over-the-counter medications and makeup, but acceptable in
Light bulbs.
vaccines and dental fillings? Thimerosal is a mercury-based preservative that has never undergone proper safety testing in humans. Hundreds of peer-reviewed studies identify it as a potent neurotoxin, a mutagen, a carcinogen, and an endocrine disruptor. Thimerosal's own label requires it to be treated as hazardous material and warns against ingestion. There is not a single study that proves it's safe. That's why in July of this year, the United States closed the final chapter on the use of thimerosal as a vaccine preservative, something that should have happened.
This is huge, folks. Taking the neurotoxins out of the childhood vaccines, giving parents back their right to religious exemption, making people aware of the gain of function research. This is something that Kevin Rotello shared earlier. Check this out. I want to see this. Fauci and Gates finally, getting their comeuppance as to, what's going on in the world. So this is, this was the deep state. This was the cabal that created all these things. People were talking about the Real ID and Palantir and all this stuff. Well, how many people are already, absolutely monitored and tracked because of the graphene oxide, the mRNA in their bodies? How many people were murdered by this thing? And who was behind it? Let's get to that. And let's also get to the fact that we need to stop taking these very, very unhealthy things that are put into the bodies of infants. So this doesn't make any sense, by the way. Now, the other thing is, what's another tool that they've used? Not only the jabs, but what about our food? Okay, and how they're weakening humanity with our food. Here is this is Bobby again. Here we go.
This is the fulfillment of a promise that we made in the Maha Report. The Maha Report, which we
Let me start that again.
This is the fulfillment of a promise that we made in the Maha Report. The Maha Report, which we released 2.5 months ago, has 120 recommendations for how to transition, how to eliminate the chronic disease epidemic and transition to a healthier America. And among those promises, among the recommendations of the report, was the promise to make it easier for farmers in this country, to give them an off-ramp. Farmers who are dependent on inputs, on chemical and fertilizer inputs, to give them an off-ramp where they can transition to a model that emphasizes soil health And with soil health comes nutrient density.
Now, what did I say to you yesterday about the 12 billion that was going to the farmers, and how the next step is actually making our farms safer and Bobby was just talking about atrazine, which is getting into the water supply, and that's the thing that made frogs gay, or frogs no longer reproduce. This is a depopulation agenda, my friends. If you can't see the Trump administration taking on the deep state cabal directly by stopping these depopulation agendas to make people weak, to make them unhealthy. What else has Bobby talked about? About the fluoride in the water. Okay. So we're, giving people the option for the jabs so that they can better educate themselves and opt out should they want to. If you want to take a jab, take all the ones you want. If you want to give your kids jabs, go right ahead. But do your homework. At least do as much homework as you would on buying a new car, for example, or buying a new house. Okay. At least put even a tenth of the effort, the tenth of the time into looking at the real problems here. So I told you yesterday that with the 12 billion to the farmers, now the next step is going to be making that food healthier. And that's what Bobby is doing. Staying on the jab conversation. Check this out here.
The FDA has that is relevant to the public, any safety information. These are data reports that came in during the Biden administration where a doctor or a parent said that their kid died immediately after getting the COVID vaccine, and they believe that there was a link. So the FDA did its own investigation, and this was all during the Biden administration, but they suppressed that data. It was never made public. And so do we have a moral obligation to make that information public? I believe we do, but we need to verify the information first to make sure it's accurate. It's known, and it's been known, that young kids have died from the COVID vaccine. We're not trying to create hysteria or scare anybody out of taking any vaccine, but you've got to be honest. Young kids are at high risk of myocarditis. Older individuals are at lower risk of myocarditis from the vaccine. And we have seen the COVID shot reduce the severity of illness in older Americans back in 2020 at the end of Operation Warp Speed. It was a good match at the time for the virus that was circulating. There was low levels of natural immunity in the population, and it saved lives. But when it comes to mandating this vaccine today in young, healthy individuals, as the Biden administration does, we want schools to know that, well, first of all, you cannot mandate this vaccine now, given the changes that we've done. But we want people to know that it's not 1,000% safe. There have been some reports that are concerning.
Well, you bring up a moral duty. I would presume that moral duty is not just simply to tell the truth, which I would argue that every.
So we're seeing these links to the CV. Now, this again, just like almost everything else that you and I have become aware of over the years, especially if you've been watching me for many years and following Q, is that much of this has been already discussed, already we were aware of. But if you look at the actual law being carried out against some of these people, we needed this administration back in, and we needed to expose the sheer hypocrisy and the sheer failure of our judicial system. This is not by accident. But back to our away from the jabs, back to our food. Secretary Rollins.
Really today is about the next step in making America healthy again, in addition to those waivers, and that is talking about regenerative agriculture. Regenerative agriculture is a conservation management approach that emphasizes natural resources through improved soil health, water management, and natural vitality for the productivity and prosperity of American agriculture and all of our communities. Today, we are launching a new Farmer First regenerative agriculture pilot program, which will invest $700 million specifically to support regenerative agriculture. We will deliver this support through existing programs our farmers already know and already trust. Protecting and improving the health of our soil is critical, not only for the future viability of farmland, but to the future success of American farmers. In order to continue to be the most productive and most efficient growers in the world, we must protect our topsoil from unnecessary erosion and boost the microbiome of the soil. Today's announcement encourages these priorities while supporting farmers to transition to regenerative agriculture if they so choose. This is a Farmers First pilot program, first of its
Sorry,
kind.
folks.
The pilot brings USDA talking about
My
regenerative. Really today is about the next step in making America healthy again, in addition to those waivers, and that is talking about regenerative agriculture. Regenerative agriculture is a conservation management approach that emphasizes natural resources through improved soil health, water management, and natural vitality for the productivity and prosperity of American agriculture and all of our communities. Today, we are launching a new Farmer First regenerative agriculture pilot program, which will invest $700 million specifically to support regenerative agriculture. We will deliver this support through existing programs our farmers already know and already trust. Protecting and improving the health of our soil is critical, not only for the future viability of farmland, but to the future success of American farmers. In order to continue to be the most productive and most efficient growers in the world, we must protect our topsoil from unnecessary erosion and boost the microbiome of the soil. Today's announcement encourages these priorities while supporting farmers to transition to regenerative agriculture if they so choose. This is a Farmers First pilot program and the first of its kind. The pilot brings USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS. We have our incredible leaders here, Aubrey Betancourt, back to its core mission, helping people help the land through whole farm, outcome-based voluntary conservation that our producers trust. For too long, our conservation programs have been severely fragmented. This pilot replaces that fragmentation with one unified process that evaluates everything at one time. Whole farm planning is the centerpiece, ensuring that all resource concerns such as soil, water, and natural vitality are addressed together, not one piece at a time. Producers will benefit from a single application, reducing red tape and making conservation easier to access and our programs more impactful. As President Trump has done since day one, we are committed to restoring America's natural strength by empowering producers with simple outcome-based tools. Producers at every stage, from beginners just starting with cover crops to advanced operation with years of conservation experience, many of those are represented by our farmers today, will find a pathway through this pilot. Each producer's results will be measured and credited back to the farmer through an outcomes report, recognizing and rewarding improvements they achieve on their own land. This initiative puts American farmers first as part of the solution to make America healthy again, but by supporting access to American-grown whole foods that are critical to addressing the chronic disease crisis nationwide. Using the Sustains Act, we will bring corporate, label, and supply chain partners directly into partnership with NRCS, supporting regenerative agriculture adoption, farmer recognition, and consumer education. Because success depends on strong partnerships, we will expand work through our technical service providers and local organizations to meet demand. In addition, the Office of Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production, supported by their advisory committee, will extend regenerative priorities into cities and urban areas and urban communities across our great country, again, aligning with the MAHA agenda. And many of those places in our country, as you know, are those that are facing the most severe crisis regarding nutritious foods and access to nutritious foods. This new pilot is about results that last. It will make our farms more productive, our land healthier, and our water cleaner.
I mean, this is huge. Sorry to hear that Ravens wings. That's messed up. But Barack Obama is going down very, very soon. Let me show you another thing. Joe Tippins, who has been healing the sea with ivermectin. Check this out.
At the moment, because of politics, it's being blocked from doctors prescribing it, and it's being
We're talking about ivermectin and HCQ.
blocked from pharmacists releasing it. They've been empowered to overrule the doctor's opinion. Why is this not over the counter as you can get it in much of the world, in almost all of Latin America, in Iran, in Indonesia, in sub-Saharan Africa? You can just go and buy it yourself.
Both these studies, and they had to retract these studies, which really is unheard of. That should raise everyone's concern.
This drug is super safe. It's safer than aspirin, Motrin, Tylenol. It's super safe, all right?
By the way, do you know how many accounts I lost by sharing these doctors and their words on my show in 2020? Multiple accounts I lost because of sharing these truths that these doctors are speaking out about.
I'm in favor of it being over the counter. Give it to the people. Give it to the people. At the moment, because of politics.
Dr. Simone Gold has been a fierce fighter in this, and now they have put together a petition. Dr. Gold and America's Frontline Doctors filed 2 citizen petitions with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to convert both HCQ and Iver from prescription-only status to full over-the-counter status. Dr. Gold and AF, American Frontline Doctors, were joined by doctors Dana Granberg-Nill, Brian Atkinson, Pierre Corey, Brian Tyson, Peterson Pierre, Robin Armstrong, Jeff Mitchell, and Lynn Flynn as co-petitioners. By submitting these petitions to the FDA, Frontline Doctors is taking critical action to empower the American people and ensure easy access to life-saving medications. HCQ has been FDA approved for decades, is available over the counter in many parts of the world, such as in Africa and South America for the prevention and treatment of malaria. I've covered all of this back in the day. And then in the U.S. and other Western nations, it's widely prescribed medication primarily used to treat rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. According to the government's own database, basically the accountability for adverse reactions against, jabs. HCQ is one of the safest drugs on the planet. Ivermectin is a wide-ranging anti-parasitic agent that has been used in humans for over 3 decades and won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015. Not for horses, by the way, but for people, okay? Considered extremely safe. It's FDA approved to treat threadworm infection and river blindness with millions of treatments administered in global public health campaigns. And it's also, potential use in the sea treatment. There's absolutely no dispute that both these drugs are extremely safe. And so they buried all this, okay? The people that brought us COVID, they buried all this. They made fun of President Trump for even bringing it up. If you remember, I had sources for you to get this. I made no money on it. It was a doctor that was prescribing it for you. There was we had a what do you call it? A compound pharmacy that was making it and shipping it. So people were able to get it. I would take it HCQ prophylactically before I traveled. Also took the silver sprayed, nose, mouth. So I recommend you have this. This is from our friends Jim and Jasmine. And they've been making this for quite some time and, serving my community for many, many years, especially through the depths of CV. So my friends, see all of the things All of those things were attempts to control us and or to kill us, to harm us. Okay. And this is all being reversed. It's all being brought out into the open. Cheers, everybody. This is not an accident. This is not something that this is why I don't tolerate black pillars. Oh, Trump's just as bad as everybody else. Really? What's your fucking solution? All right. Oh, I don't like it because it's taken too long. Tough shit. Get in line. Most of the people that have been waiting for this have been waiting a hell of a lot longer than the people complaining about how long it's taking. Okay. So get in fucking line and keep your mouth shut because it's happening. We're seeing it happen. Don't allow these voices to come into your head. Look at what I just showed you. Folks, that's an entire show. Like if I just did that, if I just showed mercury out of the childhood jabs, the parents now they're going to relook at this, and eventually the parents will have a religious exemption from even taking it. Right now, if you want to go to public school, you want to go to private school, you want to play sports, you have to take it. You can't have a religious exemption, can't have a medical exemption. That's absurd. Those two things are being overturned. Okay. The COVID is now, this information is coming out about the childhood deaths, about the birth defects, about the stuff that they already knew. Okay. It's all coming to the surface. And it has to come to the surface because there's too many of us awake. And this is what Q is talking about. You cannot tell people the truth. You must show them. And that is what has been happening. And that is why we are now, and how about the food? How about helping our farmers? How about regenerative agriculture? Okay. Which is the next level because we have to grow better food. We have to take care of our soil. RFK talking about the atrazine in the water, the spraying of the skies, that's coming out. That's being reversed. How about taxation, my friends? Let's talk about taxation for a moment. I mean, I can end the show now. And what we just talked about over the past, however long I've been on, almost an hour, but about 20 minutes of that was taken up with President Trump. But if I just did the last, 40 minutes, that's a whole show. Like that's huge. Those are huge topics. I could shut down the show right now and I'd be happy with the content because we're winning. We're exposing all these things. Let's talk about taxation. Let's find out about what President Trump was talking about today regarding taxation. Thank you, Joe Tippins, for that great piece and all the work that you're doing, helping people with the big C using the ivermectin. It is absolutely huge. Let's listen to President Trump on taxation.
A lot of farms would you love your children, and your children are great, and they want to be farmers. And you leave the farm and your children, and a lot of farms are sort of cash poor, land rich, cash poor, and the kids would go to the local bank or to any bank, and they'd borrow money to pay the estate tax, and they'd end up losing the farm. They go bankrupt, and a lot of debt too. Literally, because they love their farm and they love their business and they love that way of life, they end up committing suicide. A lot of suicides. We have no more estate tax. How about that? Do you have children? I do. Well, let them know. Now, if you love your children, and it's good. If you don't love your children, you don't have to leave them anything. It doesn't matter what I just said.
They're
But I
still
have a-
young. I still
I
love
have a
them.
feeling you love
I
them.
still love
I
them.
have a feeling you love your children. But the estate tax is a very big thing. So you don't have estate tax. You die, you leave your farm or whatever, or small business to your children. You don't have to pay estate tax. It seems to affect the farmer more than anybody else, because you can have a farm that's very valuable, and therefore you have to pay a big tax, but it's not a big value in terms of cash.
You know, this is so huge. This estate tax, right? Where people are losing their family farms, their family estates, their family homes because of, you know, this ridiculous tax on almost everything. Yeah, so great comments, by the way, folks. Really great stuff. Steve, love it. This is I was there as a player, Dave. You are so right. I don't quite understand that, Steve, but I love your energy. Thank you. So, so this is somebody asked me here about, can you take it every day? Ravens Wings, Ellen, you can take it daily. It's recommended. But here's the thing. Did Tippin? I thought Tippins beat it, Pamela. I thought he beat the C with the Ivor. Folks, anybody chime in on that? Ellen was asking this. Do your research on this. I can't prescribe. I can't recommend. Do your research on this. Do as much research on this as you would buying a car, because I can't give any type of advice like that, because everybody is different, and I want to make sure that you get the amount and the dosage that you need to be taking. Even if you're talking to a friend, make sure you do your own research. This is your body. So much of what we're covering here is don't do what I say, do your own research, right? Don't believe what I say, do your own research. And obviously I show some of the receipts, but on that particular subject, you want to be really, really accurate, and you want to be really, really safe. By the way, this is from Joe Tippin's. Here's Joe Tippin's account right here. My name is Joe Tippins, a long-term cancer survivor who successfully employed alternative remedies to overcome my illness after being given a few weeks to live. So yeah, he was given only a few weeks to live. Why am I not following him? I think I was knocked off of his follow. That has happened to me, by the way. So folks, if I stopped it there, you would say to yourself, there's no way the way this administration is working, there's no way that Trump's out to get us. I'm sorry, but your arguments fall flat if you're anti-Trump, if you're anti this administration. What I opened the show with was the sheer number of investment that President Trump is bringing in through his innovation. One of the things I didn't get to, the Trump card. Okay. I wanted to share Spiritual Street Fighters, great artwork here. And it says Trump card incoming, or Trump card coming, right? 2 aces and the 17 with Q plus here. And this is Spiritual Street Fighter. And the Trump card he talked about today in his roundtable with those businessmen. And it was, he talked about the Trump card, which is basically, if you want to come to America, you can pay, I believe it's, let me see if I can find that spot. But you guys know this already. Is it 5 million for an individual to come to the country if they've graduated like from college at the with honors and the whole bit? Like, I think for $1 million they can stay. And if a company wants to hire them, the company will spend 5 million for the Trump card to keep them in the country. And then after they gain their citizenship after 5 years, the company can reuse that $5 million card, Trump card that they bought. This is going to bring billions of dollars into our country on top of the already 18 trillion in investment coming into our country from foreign countries and foreign investors. That, again, what I've said, many times here on the show, if you have, let's call it by the end of the next couple months, let's call it $20 million. $20 trillion. Okay. Right now he's at 18 trillion versus, Biden's 1 trillion over 4 years. So let's say it's $20 trillion. Those companies, those entities, those countries aren't investing $20 trillion so that they can get $20 trillion back into their pocket. No, they're investing $20 trillion because that is going to turn into $120 trillion. This is investment. What's going to happen to our country is unprecedented. Okay? If the investment into our country is unprecedented, then that return on investment is going to be unprecedented. And the reason why President Trump has to, do the Trump card and continue with the H-1 visas is because we need people to work in these countries. Okay. Now, back to the jab. Let me share this with you.
This is now the first CDC director coming out to call for market removal of the shots. But the thing is he joins the list that we've documented in one of our peer-reviewed papers. He joins a list of over 81,000 concerned scientists, physicians, and concerned citizens. He joins the list of over 240 U.S. elected officials and European and Australian elected officials in calling for the market removal of these shots. So now the list is so big. I think we're going to reach a point soon where they will be taken off. The evidence is simply too undeniable. This is now the first CDC director.
So by the way, this was President Trump's appointment. Okay. Robert Redfield. This is huge. And I'll never forget my conversation with a very successful doctor who sold his company. He created anti-cancer treatments, and he sold his company for $100 million. Very successful. And I was trying to get him to not give the jab to his family before they got the jab. And part of the thing I was talking about was Redfield, and he said he's a quack. Meanwhile, Walensky, she's turning out to be the quack. She's turning out to be the farce, right? And so this is big, that all these people are coming out and saying that we need to pull this mRNA off the shelves without question. So what? Trump is part of the plan. Okay. Now, I want to play this guy for you. I want to go back. I'm jumping back between the jab and food, but this was one of the gentlemen that spoke after RFK Jr. and after the head of agriculture, and he is a successful regenerative farmer, and this is, I mean, this is really, really important stuff, because this is our lifeline. This is what heals us. Food heals us.
Regenerative farming is simply farming in harmony with nature, with the way that God intended or our maker intended. It's paying attention to the biology and building nutrient density in the soil, the plants, the crops that our animals eat. For us, it's chickens and cows, and then ultimately it's the milk and the nutrient density for food for humans, and making our planet a better place. In harmony with nature means that we're cleaning up the water supply on our farm. We're cleaning up the erosion that may or may not happen with both soil and water. And we're cleaning up the air. And so everybody benefits, all the wildlife, the ecosystem benefits, and ultimately we're sequestering carbon and literally doing the right thing and moving forward in harmony with nature, again, making our planet a healthier place for everyone. Regenerative.
It's huge. Huge. It's also going to make it healthier for the animals as well, because the animals are drinking from the ponds, the lakes, the streams that, that this and the ocean, the ones that live in the ocean, they're taking in all these harsh chemicals just the same as we are in our drinking water and also in our food. So, I mean, folks, this is huge. Like, this is it. If the cabal was in charge, none of this shit would be going on. If Trump was just another player, none of this would be going on. And speaking of, getting healthier, what's Trump talking about? He's talking about getting rid of Obamacare, where all these insurance companies are getting the money, and giving the money to the people instead. And so the New York Times reported on 90% of Obamacare recipients didn't have to give proper documentation to get their coverage. Now, this is a man pretending to be a woman, and this is Sarah McBride, and this is a reporter from Lindell TV interviewing her, and as she's kind of seemingly trying to run away.
Government watchdog group set up a number of fake accounts and discovered that 90% of Obamacare subsidies were actually granted without any documentation, no social security number, no income verification. What do you make of this? And why do you guys want to continue to extend a program that's clearly failed the American people, especially for another 3 years?
Well, I don't think the American people think that it's failed the American people, and that study, quote unquote, sounds like bullshit.
Well, it's right here. I actually have it.
Yeah, but it sounds like a bullshit study, not a bullshit methodology.
So because it sounds like BS, you just say that it's no good? I mean, I can show you it right here. New York Times reported on it.
Sounds like the methodology is pretty questionable.
All right, well, it's right here. Obamacare subsidies granted without documentation, 90% fraud rate.
That's a 90, first of all, that's not what that says, and you can mischaracterize what a report says, but that's not what it says. It does not say that there's a 90% fraud rate.
90% of fake accounts set up by government watchdog.
That's
Speaker Johnson and Thune have been sounding the alarm on this for the last couple of days, ever since it was discovered. Any response to them talking about it?
Well, first of all, if they want to work with us and add in measures around verification for the ACA tax credits, we're ready to negotiate. But Mike Johnson has been nowhere to be seen when it comes to negotiating a path forward on this healthcare crisis, including skyrocketing premiums because of the expiration of the ACA tax credits.
So you guys are dead set on the 3 years. I mean, would you come to a compromise if it was 2 years, 1 year?
We've said that we are willing to work with anyone who's willing to seriously come to the table in good faith to extend the ACA tax credits. Our proposal, which is 4 signatures away from a discharge petition being successful to force a vote, is 3 years. But there are other proposals on the table. Again, leadership needs to actually come to the table, be serious, and negotiate. Government requires compromise, but Republicans are nowhere to be found in leadership when it comes to that compromise and that conversation. Thank you so much.
What kind of leadership can we possibly derive from somebody with
Government watchdog
with
group set up a
mental
number of
illness? And who is, pushing this mental illness? But, are some of our politicians. Here's our beloved Gavin Newsom talking about, what drove people like Sarah McBride to normalize this.
So we didn't get into trans sports. That's an issue no one wants to hear about because 80% of the people listening disagree with my position on this. But it comes from my heart, not just my head. It wasn't a political evolution. It was
obviously it doesn't come from his head.
That I don't think it's. I want to see trans kids. I have a trans godson. There's no governor that's signed more pro-trans legislation than I have, and no one has been a stronger advocate for the LGBTQ community. So we didn't get into trans sports. That's an issue no one wants to hear about because 80% of the people listening disagree with my position on this. But it comes.
This is what we're up against. This is what we're up against, and this is the leader of what, the 4th or 5th largest economy in the world. I mean, it's just absolutely tragic what we're seeing unfold. And California was the first state to take away medical exemption and religious exemption, and was one of the harshest states regarding the CV jab. Sudden and unexpected. I've been following them for a long time. Excess deaths surrounding CV and the jab. This has been released. All the data from the CV-19 jab. 60 pages of paralysis, not 60 cases. If it was 60 cases, it should be stopped. 60 pages of cases. 126 pages of blindness. 368 pages of thrombosis, all from the jab. Censorship kills nearly 1,000 pages of patients. And I'm sharing this on my timeline. You can see it on the VAERS analysis. And this is the, I forget what VAERS stands for, but it's vaccine adverse effects RS. I forget what the rest of that is. Let me see if it's here somewhere. But number of adverse reactions, 1.6 million. All other jabs, 1990 to present, was a million. I mean, some of these numbers are just unbelievable. Number of life-threatening events, 41,000. Now, back when I started covering VAERS and I was, lobbying heavily, publicly, for the parental rights to vaccinate or not vaccinate. And when I would research the VAERS, I found out that only about 1 in 100 cases are actually reported to VAERS. And they made it more and more difficult to report to VAERS. This was something that was created in 1986 when Reagan made it so that all these jab makers were no longer being held accountable for adverse reactions to their products, right? So this is getting very interesting. I'm going to shift gears away from the health right now. This is getting very interesting. I showed you this last night, and I'm going to let this play out, and then we're going to talk about it. Let me pull that up for you.
I hear that the AutoPen may have signed those commissions.
Diana, just help me out with that. Let me pull that up real quick. Vaccine adverse event reporting system. Thank you, Diana. Appreciate that. Thanks very much.
If they signed those commissions, now maybe I'm wrong, but we're going to check. Have you checked that? Are you hearing it? Who signed it? Did he sign it or did the AutoPen sign it? I'm hearing the AutoPen. You know, you can't use the AutoPen unless it's very strongly authorized, unless you show you know what the hell you're doing, which is impossible of him to show. So, I don't know. I think it's something we have to look into. You put people there that are not authorized to be there. I know I signed Chris Wright. I signed everything, but I signed Chris Wright. If I gave you an AutoPen, they could throw you the hell out of here, Chris. The difference is they would do it, you know? We try and be too nice. No, would you check that, Scott, okay? Because I'm hearing that the AutoPen could have signed maybe all four, but maybe a couple of them. We'll take two.
So the Rubber Duck, who's a great anon and a great follow on X, at the Rubber Duck 79. Breaking, Trump announces he believes that the three of the Fed governors and Jerome Powell had their appointment commission signed by AutoPen, then directs Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to investigate and confirm. Only 3 Fed governors were appointed by Joe Biden, and their commissions were signed by the AutoPen. Okay, this is how Trump takes over the Fed, by the way. He's already put it under the Treasury. Jerome, that happened in, May of 2020? Jerome Powell was appointed by Barack Obama, who used an AutoPen to sign Powell's commission. This was how long does it take you to sign your fucking name, folks? Okay. I used to, when I was playing basketball at Iowa, I was signing autographs all the time because Iowa basketball is like the pro team in Iowa because there's no pro teams in Iowa. So I was signing autographs on my visit as a 17-year-old on my visit to the campus. And then after the games, we would play these games around the state because a lot of people couldn't get to watch us live so we were playing inter-squad games around the state. They had tables set up after we would play, and, you know, we'd have packed gymnasiums, like thousands of people. And we would stay for hours sometimes just signing autographs. It didn't take long to sign each one. Okay. All right. You don't need a fucking AutoPen. This was the first time in U.S. history a president used an AutoPen for a Fed governor's commission. Boom. Okay. This is huge. This is huge, my friends. This is one of those things that you don't really think about, but because Trump mentions it, now they're digging into it and they're going to get to the bottom of this. And now Scott Bessent is, investigating this. Okay. Some great news today. The National Guard member that was shot in D.C. is sitting up, and he got out of bed for the first time. This is from MAGA Voice, and says, absolutely chills. Your prayers are working. Christ is King. We've been praying for this young man, and I know you have as well. He sat up. He got out of bed. This is a beautiful thing. Beautiful, beautiful thing. And this is, thank you God for this, because this is really, this warms my heart, because this is obviously something that was extremely tragic, and yet, you know, it's opening up the floodgates of truth around what's really happening in the world, and this this whole narrative that, you know, President Trump is giving out illegal orders. He's not. They're breaking the law. They're breaking the law that ICE is obligated to correct, to enforce. And that's why I don't have a problem with people getting pepper sprayed. In Minnesota, there are leakers that are letting the people of Minnesota know that ICE is coming, because all these protesters are showing up at where ICE is showing up. So I don't have a problem that they're getting pepper sprayed, or that they feel like they should be allowed to protest. No, they're absolutely getting in the way of all this. And something that's really fantastic is, check this out. This is the Nick Sorter breaking. The Department of Homeland Security has just signed a $140 million deal to buy a fleet of Boeing 737s to ramp up ICE's deportation flights. Okay. ICE had previously been forced to rely on chartered flights, but now with dedicated planes, illegals can be much quicker. This is what I voted for. I think this is behold a pale horse, Glaubenkrieger. Absolutely a Glaubenkrieger. Fantastic reading. I have an older copy. Do you remember what number the chapter is? If you wouldn't mind looking, I'd appreciate that. But this is, folks, this is patriots are in control. If you don't see this, I'm like, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? This is huge. This is absolutely huge. Okay. Yeah, this is so good. Huge fire in St. Petersburg last night. This is has anybody seen what caused this? This is Mario Nafal says the migrant hotspot, if deliberate, it's an economic gut punch, 100 million plus daily trade. Source Visegrad. I'll follow that. But huge what's going on there. And I don't think it is a result of the war. So, yeah, we'll see. But here's an example of what I was talking about regarding the people showing up at the ICE raids. Care National. Now, Care National is the Muslim civil rights group that Ron DeSantis just declared a terrorist organization in Florida. And they're suing Governor DeSantis. And I'm very excited about that lawsuit, because if they're suing Governor DeSantis, then they have to come up with reasons why they're suing. And Governor DeSantis has to come up with reasons why he decided on that, and he's going to have proof on that.
Morning, we're continuing to track ongoing immigration enforcement. This chaotic scene was captured yesterday by Mercado Media in Cedar Riverside.
Now, you can see there are masked individuals there. They're wearing ice vests, pepper spraying the protesters. We believe this started at about 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It's on 6th Street off Cedar Avenue. And several people our news team spoke with say they saw agents going up and down the street asking people for IDs and proof of citizenship.
One of the ICE employee jumped in the car and spray people in the eyes, and everybody was in the ground. And we have to put water in their eyes to wash the chemicals. And the chemicals was so strong. Some of them are really laid down on the snow.
Community leaders tell us ICE detained a U.S. citizen, but he was later released after showing his passport. We reached out to ICE and to Minneapolis for more details on what happened.
A woman detained by ICE at a separate scene early Tuesday morning is now telling us what happened. So this is video from North 21st and Oliver Avenue in North Minneapolis, where you can see her there in handcuffs on the ground. Susan Tincher says she was there to observe ICE in the neighborhood and gather information when this happened.
I approached an officer and asked what they were doing and if they were ICE, and she yelled at me to get back, and I stood my ground. I just stood there on the sidewalk, and other officers came up, and I was thrown to the ground, tightly handcuffed.
Tincher says that she was held in the Whipple Federal Building for 4 hours before being released and told that she'll be charged with obstruction. ICE has not responded to a request for information or confirm any arrests.
And this morning, we are hearing reaction from the executive director of the Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, Jailani Hussein. Listen.
We believe ICE operation is not focused on anything related to a violation of immigration law. We believe that this ICE operation is simply targeting anyone who looks like they're Somali, anyone who looks like Black, anyone who's clearly Muslim.
And community leaders announced some new initiatives. They include Somali Heritage Month, expanded safety and wellness programs, and new support for local families and businesses. Care Minnesota saying the efforts for those programs aims to counter recent attacks and misinformation while inviting all residents to get involved.
And great comment, by the way, about DeSantis being a JAG lawyer, Karen. DeSantis was a JAG lawyer for the Navy. So this is, very, very interesting, Karen. Great call on that, by the way. Catfather B, I wonder if Cooper's CAJI agency led to Q. It's certainly, my guess, inspired Q, just like Bill Cooper inspired yours truly and so many others in this movement. It's pretty amazing. Folks, if you want to support my work here, please do so. You can find the way to do it there, and also. You can go to Snedheads and go to Donation Nation on snedheads.com. Please come on over and join Snedheads, folks, even if it's free to join. But if you want to post and really engage, please support it at $17 a month. It's well worth it. Be the first to get in. This is going to be a platform that is owned by we, the people. It's going to be owned by us. So the more you comment, the more you post, the more you share outside of the platform, bringing other people in, you're going to be a part of the revenue generated by that platform. And we're changing the name to the Rubicon with a Q, the Rubicon, because if you don't know the Julius Caesar story, Rome made it illegal for any general commanding one of Rome's armies to cross the river in northern Italy known as the Rubicon. Julius Caesar, fed up with the corruption of the Senate in Rome and, not taking care of the people, crossed the Rubicon with his army after conquering, whole areas, swaths of Europe and Asia. And he crossed the Rubicon, met with some of the members of the Senate that wanted him to do that. And it's known as, and as he crossed, he said, let the die be cast. Like, we're making this motion, we're making this effort to take back our country, to take back Rome. And so this is the Rubicon, and it's, instead of a C, it's a Q, and the Rubicon.com for the inspiration of Q. And once you cross the Rubicon, there's no going back. You've crossed the point of no return. You've made that commitment. And so, please come on over and be a part of this amazing platform that I've created with the help of Ronnie Orr. And let's take it to the next level. There's 700 of us on there right now. It's fantastic. You're gonna love it. You can go on dark mode, or you can go on light mode here. And it's a great research tool. You've got Window to the World, which is a bunch of X posts that I recommend, that you'll be able to engage with X without necessarily joining X. Okay. You've got all these, great posts on here. You've got research, the Q drops, capital letter counter, all the Q sources, Grok, Ingersoll Lockwood, U.S. debt clock. You can find the X and Truth feeds of myself, Dan Scavino, and President Trump. You can just click on here. It'll take you automatically to President Trump. So you can literally start out your day on Snedheads, and you can go to all these sources. This is the Trump Gold Card, which is the path to citizenship. So really, really good stuff. President Trump is basically saying to Mexico, you have to take care of the water situation and the sewage problem. It's a threat to the people of Texas, California, and
as Mexico continues.
Let me play that.
As Mexico continues to send millions of gallons of raw, untreated sewage water into the Tijuana River. The often massive releases are linked to operational issues at Tijuana's primary wastewater treatment facility. It's created a health hazard for communities like Imperial Beach and Coronado.
Yeah. So President Trump is on this subject quite extensively, and and he's got some great posts. But also, you're going to find some great posts in the news feed on Snedheads. You'll see tonight's show right here. Heather Willard, beautiful, brave new world lies ahead. This is the kind of positivity that, is so rampant on Snedheads, but you're not going to get in other places, because then it's followed with bullshit. Kathy Drexler, beautiful. Good morning. This is Heather giving us a link to Promethean Action. This is Mike Benz, who well, let me play this for you. This is really really powerful work by Mike Benz here. Let me play this for you.
Of military, intelligence, and political power in the United States of America all got together, did a secret war game to find a way to use riots, nationwide riots, and do favors to the Black Lives Matter movement so that they would owe them favors back to take to the streets against Trump if Trump won the election fair and square, but that they also needed a reason to throw Trump and his family in jail, and they needed a robust, intentional, and specific strategy to go after the networks that enabled Trump's rise to power, because they will not automatically demobilize when Trump leaves office, and they can't be in this country anymore. We need a way to mass arrest them.
That's Mike Benz on Saturday outlining in detail a big chunk of the conspiracy that put Joe Biden in office. It involved a group which most people have never heard of, the Transition Integrity Project. And I share Mike Benz's obsession with their June 2020 war game. I'm Barbara Boyd, and I've been writing about this event ever since August of 2020. I checked. I'm also the co-author of a police dossier. It's the British who murder our presidents. To get your copy, follow the link in the description. Today, I'm going to first talk about the key players in the TIP exercise and their shocking, very public plan to subvert the 2020 election. Then I'm going to detail how the rigging of the election, the 4 attempts to jail Trump and wipe out his entire movement, which started on January 6th, all flow from this June 2020 conspirators meeting. Finally, I'm going to show you excerpts of a speech by Donald Trump to the World Economic Forum in January of 2020. It's why this nation's enemies decided long ago that Trump and Trumpism had to be eliminated. It echoes Trump's condemnation of globalism and the Europeans in the new national security policy we talked about on Saturday. But before we get started, please like and share this video. You know it increases our reach on YouTube. The publicly named sponsors of the war game were Rosa Brooks and Niles Gilman from the Berggruen Institute in LA. The Berggruen Institute is the globalist home of Silicon Valley's really crazy anti-Trump billionaires like Reid Hoffman and Eric Schmidt, Google's former chairman. It has additional branches in Venice and Beijing. They claim their China branch is in direct dialogue with Xi Jinping. Saturday, I told you about Michael Anton, who wrote the revolutionary New Trump National Security Doctrine. Anton called out TIP's war game when it happened. He said, accurately, they were planning a coup against the election, and their publicized war game were to normalize the idea in the public's mind. For that insight, Niles Gilman tweeted that Antoine deserved to be executed by a firing squad. Rosa Brooks started out as a lawyer for George Soros at the Open Society Institute, went to Bill Clinton's State Department to conduct regime change operations, then worked for Obama as a lawyer for the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy at the Pentagon. All the time, she was a tenured law professor at Georgetown, one of the nation's preeminent law schools. That's why I don't wonder where our current radical judges came from. She couldn't wait to launch a coup against Trump. In January 2017, just 7 days after the inauguration, she wrote a piece for Foreign Policy magazine titled 3 Ways to Get Rid of President Trump Before 2020. She dismissed the idea, of course, of waiting until the next election and winning it. Instead, she advocated the 25th Amendment and impeachment. Both of those, of course, were tried in Trump's first term and failed. The fourth idea, not mentioned incidentally in the title, is a military coup. She ends this 2017 manifesto with the following. For the first time in my life, I can imagine plausible scenarios in which senior military officers might simply tell the president, no, sir, we're not doing that. To thunderous applause from the New York Times editorial board. That's the lawyer for the third most powerful person in Obama's Pentagon speaking. You might ask, what role is she playing now as Democrats foolishly replay the very same game? In June of 2020, Brooks and Gilman convened the tip war game about the 2020 election and its potential aftermath. It had over 100 active participants and 76 role players drawn from former Pentagon officials, the intelligence community, Silicon Valley, Wall Street, the media, and the Republican and Democratic Party and institutions. In short, the corrupt Washington establishment. While some names have been made public, like John Podesta, Donna Brazile, Bill Kristol, Michael Steele, Jennifer Granholm, many others, of course, have not. All of them were anti-Trump. All of them, like Brooks and Gilman, were big players in the attempt to nullify Trump's 2016 election and overthrow the government. Mike Benz does a very good job detailing the various war games in the tip exercise. I'll just leave it at the conclusion. The insurrectionists concluded that in order to prevent Trump from having a second term, Biden needs to somehow roll up a huge victory margin in the election and overcome the obvious perception of fraud. In all their scenarios, including overturning a Trump win, they need to control the military, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and similar street rioters. Well, BLM got $90 million in 2020 with donors like the Democracy Alliance and the Ford Foundation, and Mark Elias, the lawyer who practically led the first coup, was in charge of all their financial filings. The military. On August 11, 2020, Defense One published an article by retired Colonels John Nagel and Paul Yingling, blatantly calling for a military coup. Defense One followed that up on August 18th with a call to make this a matter of reasoned debate within the military rather than rejecting the idea of a coup out of hand. Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was not about to obey any order from the president to quell an insurrection. He was already in open revolt against President Trump in June of 2020. Now, on Saturday, I got a few comments about where to find the national security strategy I was talking about. It's on the White House website. But if you subscribe to our newsletter, we provide you with all the research which backs up what I'm saying. If you haven't already, go there and subscribe now. The link is in the description. The most overlooked part of the TIPS exercise is the appendix to the report. It debates the idea to criminally proceed against Trump even after he leaves office and to totally wipe out his, quote, white supremacist and extremist base, end quote. Here's the money quote. More broadly, there needs to be a robust, intentional, and specific strategy to challenge the white supremacist and extremist networks that enabled Trump's rise to power and were in turn enabled by Trump's administration. This base will not automatically demobilize if and when Trump leaves office, and it is inimical to the kind of pluralist democracy the founders intended. Doesn't that sound like the setup for January 6, 2021? Recently, Senator Chuck Grassley and others disclosed that Arctic Frost, an FBI investigation opened in April of 2022, ahead of the 2022 midterms, sought to take out huge chunks of the Republican Party's election organization, spied on 10 sitting senators, and targeted Citizens Trump for no less than 4 prosecutions. Like their current European counterparts, these Democrats slandered the electoral majorities who opposed them, not as citizens, but as white supremacists and extremists. If you think about the institutions they said they need to wage a coup in this document, the Justice Department, the Pentagon, and a mobilized radical base that they control, you get a lot of insight as to why Kash Patel Don Bongino, and Pete Hegseth are being so relentlessly targeted, even by people who say they support the president. And it's why Antifa has been allowed to run loose and grow since the summer of 2020. The only other institution you really need here is the media. But hey, they were already fully treasonous when Trump came down that escalator in 2015. So what engenders this hate against Trump and Americans, quite frankly? On January 21st, 2020, President Trump went right to the belly of the beast, the World Economic Forum, and presented the same spiritual agenda, which is in his new national security strategy. I just want to play 2 excerpts for you, and you'll see my point.
This is not a time for pessimism. This is a time for optimism. Fear and doubt is not a good thought process, because this is a time for tremendous hope and joy and optimism and action. But to embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse.
I was just having a conversation with a friend today, and we were talking about this exact thing, and that is the black pillars that think that Trump is bad, to think he's just one of these people. And we've got no time for them. We've got no energy for them because they don't have a solution. They don't have an answer. It's all doom and gloom, pessimism. That's not me. That's not the way I'm going to move through this world. And I believe because of the transparency that's happening, that we are taking back our world.
They are the heirs of yesterday's foolish fortune tellers, and I have them, and you have them, and we all have them. And they want to see us do badly, but we don't let that happen. They predicted an overpopulation crisis in the 1960s, mass starvation in the 70s, and an end of oil in the 1990s. These alarmists always demand the same thing: absolute power to dominate, transform, and control every aspect of our lives. We will never let radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country, or eradicate our liberty. Centuries ago, at the time of the Renaissance, skilled craftsmen and laborers looked upwards and built the structures that still touch the human heart. To this day, some of the greatest structures in the world have been built hundreds of years ago. In Italy, the citizens once started construction on what would be a 140-year project. The Duomo of Florence, incredible place. While the technology did not yet exist to complete their design, city fathers forged ahead anyway, certain that they would figure it out someday. These citizens of Florence did not accept limits to their high aspirations. And so the Great Dome was finally built.
That tradition of optimism, building things, and exploring ever new frontiers of human knowledge is what our founders instilled in this country. It's in our bones. They understood that oligarchical imperial interests were in the process of wiping out that Renaissance tradition in Europe, a process which has almost reached its awful climax today. In conspiracy law, you have to prove that the defendants came to an agreement and then proceeded to act on it criminally. I agree with Mike Benz. The agreement was made in the June war game, and the overt acts included the rigged election, January 6, 2021, the 4 Trump prosecutions and those of his supporters who challenged the election, and the attempt to dismantle the president's constitutional control of the military. It's now well past time to investigate all the participants for potential prosecution.
And by the way, thank you for that, for Heather, for sharing that on Snedheads, and that's Promethean Action. And I've been playing some of their excellent investigative reporting. And so let me take you to today's Delta that speaks just to that. December 10th, 2018. President Trump retweeted the Trump train on this day. Now that Russia collusion is a proven lie, when do the trials for treason begin? Obama, Holder, Clinton, Lynch, Comey, Clapper, Abbott, Clinton, Rosenstein, Podesta, and Robert Mueller, all behind bars. And remember, Kevin Rottello posted that image created by Hillbilly, I'm forgetting the name of it, Hillbilly something, that showed the seditious six behind bars like this. And President Trump reposted Kevin Rottello. By the way, we're going to have Kevin on. He and I have been wanting to connect on that. And then you've got POTUS, NSA, the United States military, the Freedom Caucus, EST, Foreign and Domestic Patriots 2015, the fight to save the world. They're all in on the fight to save the world. We needed them in. Also, Q reposted this post 2 times here. Define projection. This is a John Podesta post that took us to let the 4chan lunatics and QAnon crazies commence. That's John Podesta, folks. All the people that are calling Q a LARP and calling, Q a PSYOP and calling people like me Q-tards, they're with John Podesta, okay? That's what you need to understand. They are siding with John Podesta, CNN, YouTube, Facebook and Instagram that have banned Q accounts, Twitter before Elon Musk banning Q accounts. They're all with those people. So this is, and then Q says, define projection, define getting ahead of the story. What is scheduled to happen next week? Coincidence? Panic. This is as real as it gets. No escape, no deals. Add Brennan to graphic and update. Evil has no place here. And so basically Q is saying, add Brennan to this, John Brennan, who, by the way, converted to Islam and has been in support of the Muslim Brotherhood. And here he is here. He was added right next to Obama. Thank you, Patriot. Fire at will. Okay. These are the Q deltas for today. And more information is coming out, not just about Barack Obama being in the UK, trying to coordinate to make sure that Zelensky doesn't take this deal that President Trump has put on the table to end the war, but also the Obamacare. The man-woman that we showed at the beginning of the show tonight, who was being interviewed by Mike Lindell's reporter. She said, "What is Johnson doing? He's not to be found. He's not to be seen." That was like this thing they did, like a couple weeks ago during the lockdown. They were pretending that they were nowhere to be found. Here's Mike Johnson. Here's why he has a problem with Obamacare.
A new report by the Government Accountability Office, which I haven't seen too much written about yet. You should look into that. It is an eye-opener as well. It makes clear why it would be a dereliction of duty to just extend subsidies without massive reforms to them. Okay, over the last 2 years, this is investigators at the Government Accountability Office. Okay, they submitted 24 fraudulent applications for the ACA subsidies, the Unaffordable Care Act subsidies, Obamacare, okay? Of the 24 fraudulent applications that they created intentionally to just see what would happen, 23 of them were approved. These applications were completely fraudulent. The investigators did not submit any Social Security numbers, citizenship documentation, or reported income documents. And 23 of the 24 applications were still approved. 18 of those, by the way, are still receiving coverages. They were as of September of this year. That means the Obamacare exchange and insurers didn't verify any of the information they were supposed to under the law, and they proceeded to pay tens of thousands of dollars to insurance companies for people who do not exist. Okay? The GAO report also found that 29,000 Social Security numbers in 2023 and 68,000 in 2024 were used to receive more than 1 year's worth of insurance coverage. In other words, multiple people were utilizing the same Social Security numbers to openly defraud the American taxpayers. The GAO also found that more than 94 million was sent to insurers on behalf of dead people. Okay, this is the system that Democrats in Congress want to extend without reform. It's unbelievable.
So, yeah, I mean, that's what the issue he has with Obamacare. That's why, he's active. Don't worry. He's not, fixing his hair to make himself look like a woman. He's actually doing something very, very strong. Listen, a couple Christmas cards. One from Tom Hutchins. Merry Christmas, Dave. I really appreciate your show and all the work and effort you do to bring about an informative truth show. You mean a lot to many people and Snedheads. I'm sending what I can. I set aside dollars in an envelope with your name on it. I'm an artist with a marketing minor for Christmas gifts. I think your faithful Sned families would be happy to send you gifts from your friends, family, for your friend's family, Jasper and Mr. Whistle Whiskers. Thanks for clarifying your daughter's reason. I don't know what that means, but I wish you great success and pray for you. Tom Hutchins. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate your donation and your beautiful artwork. This is Tom's beautiful artwork here. And this one was done in blood. Painting in blood to promote harvesting DNA due to the CV scam. Okay. Watercolor with ruby. I sent one to you. There you go. Beautiful. Beautiful. There's actually, he sent me a card with this, and it actually has a little ruby on it. So thank you, Tom. Much, much appreciate you, my friend. And let me share also another beautiful card that I got. Merry Christmas. This is Jan Hasselbush, beautiful artist that she is. And this says, Dave, thank you so much for all the wonderful shows and all your hard work. I have followed you since 2020. Love you, Dave. Happy New Year. Love Jan and Sam Hasselbush. Which is her beautiful daughter who has a beautiful voice. And thank you for your donation as well. Jan, much, much appreciated. And folks, if you have any interest in sending me a card, I love hearing from you in the mail. I go to my P.O. box a couple times a week to get your beautiful letters, your beautiful cards. And some of you send donations via the mail. So I'm very appreciative of all that. So thank you. More to share with you as the cards roll in. And you can just P.O. Box 1554, Dripping Springs, Texas, 78620. It's an easy address. And so I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, I'm going to go on about a half an hour later at 8:30 because I have to do some coaching tomorrow night, some basketball coaching. So I may not be getting back to my studio until like 8:10, 8:15. So look for the show tomorrow night at 8:30. Please let everybody know. Thank you for being here, my friends. It's so great to walk through this world with you. Thank you for those of you who are, following on X. I think we're at number 8 or 9 on X right now, live show. And so thank you for putting us up there. Thank you for all the YouTubers watching. Thank you for all the Rumbleites and all the D Live members that are watching, and of course those of you on Snedheads watching. Thank you so much, and come join us over on Snedheads, folks. I love you. Be well. Good night. Have a great day tomorrow, and thank you to Moonbeam for being such an incredible moderator and host of the Sned Shed, and also Quasi Pete. Pete, I feel your energy, brother. I'm exhausted. I'm going to go lay down right now. It's been a long day, but thank you, Quasi Pete, for just making this a special place. You and Diana, thank you so much. I love you all. Good night. Bye bye.